Well, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Perceptive Learning Zone. And today's topic is the privatization of the Pakistan International Airlines. Now, the Cabinet Committee on Privatization, on this Tuesday, they have approved the rupees 135 billion bid of the Arif Habib-led consortium for acquiring 75% shares of PIA and recommended its approval by the Cabinet. The privatization of PIA in 2025, now, it represents a historic milestone in Pakistan's economic as well as institutional reform journey. Decades of financial instability, operational inefficiency, and political interference, it has left the airline struggling to fulfill its national as well as commercial role. And the transfer of a controlling stake to a domestic private consortium, it signals a paradigm shift towards market-oriented governance as well as fiscal responsibility. So let us understand the historical background. The Pakistan International Airlines, well, it was established in 1947 as the country's national flag carrier. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it symbolized national pride and international connectivity. So for decades, PIA, it operated as a state-owned enterprise, providing vital services, but at the same time, struggling with inefficiency and mismanagement. And over time, political interference, overstaffing, as well as outdated management practices, well, it has contributed to chronic financial losses. So by the early 2020s, PIA had accumulated liabilities which were exceeding its assets, with negative equity as well as recurring operational deficits. And these structural weaknesses, they rendered the airline a financial burden on the government and highlighted the urgent need for systemic reform. So the efforts to restructure PIA before privatization, they included transferring the legacy debt to a holding company as well as implementing cost-cutting measures. And these steps, they significantly reduced the airline's negative equity and prepared it for private investment. And by 2024, PIA, it reported its first net profit in over 2 decades, demonstrating the potential for sustainable operations under proper governance. PIA now, fellas, it has faced chronic losses over several years, with net losses peaking at PKR 70 billion in 2020. And gradual restructuring, debt management, as well as operational reforms, they reduced these losses, ultimately leading to the airline's first net profit in over 20 years in 2024. Now, this financial turnaround, not only does it underscore the urgent need for privatization, but it also highlights the airline's potential for sustainable and profitable operations under professional management. In December 2025, as we said at the beginning of this video, Pakistan successfully privatized a 75% stake in PIA through a competitive as well as a transparent auction. A domestic consortium that was led by the Arif Habib Corporation, it emerged as the winning bidder. It offered a significant capital injection for operational and strategic expansion. The government, it did retain a 25% residual interest, ensuring alignment between public oversight as well as private management. Now, this privatization measure was carefully designed to separate most historical debt from the operating company, while obviously embedding performance incentives as well as capital commitments. Now, this consortium, the Arif Habib Corporation, fellas, it has pledged substantial investments over the next 5 years, including fleet modernization, network expansion, as well as service upgrades. And the open and the televised auction process, it demonstrated procedural transparency, reinforcing investor confidence and signaling a new era of governance for strategic state assets. So if you talk about economic considerations and implications notwithstanding, what are the benefits of this privatization? So this can be analyzed, fellows, through institutional as well as economic theory, which emphasizes how governance structures and property rights shape organizational performance. So state-owned enterprises in many developing countries, they often suffer from inefficiencies. They suffer from soft budget constraints, and they suffer from political rent-seeking behavior. Privatization, it realigns incentives by introducing profit motives, performance-based accountability, as well as professional management. From a macroeconomic perspective, privatization also, what it does is, my dear viewers, it reduces fiscal drag from loss-making enterprises. So, in other words, privatization is allowing the governments to redirect scarce resources towards development priorities, be it infrastructure, health, education, and so on. So, in PIA's case, what was happening now was that the airline had consistently, over and over again, absorbed billions in public funds, which could now be mobilized more effectively. Yes. So the strategic shift now, it positions privatization not merely as a commercial transaction, but as a tool for national economic stability and growth. Now, privatization, fellas, it brings immediate as well as long-term benefits for PIA as well as the aviation sector. Financially, the infusion of capital, it strengthens the airline's balance sheet. It enables fleet upgrades and operational improvements. Modern aircraft optimize route networks as well as enhance customer service. They can further improve competitiveness in regional as well as international markets. Also, operational efficiency. It is expected to increase through professional management, through merit-based decision making, through performance-driven governance. Labor arrangements now have been structured in order to retain employees during this transition. And hopefully, this will minimize social disruption while gradually introducing productivity enhancements. Also, for the aviation sector at large, I must say at this point that a revitalized PIA, it sets a benchmark for private investment as well as professional standards. It can stimulate competition, enhance Pakistan's global connectivity, and contribute to broader economic development through tourism, through trade, through international business facilitation. The airline's expansion plans, they include resumption of key European and Middle Eastern routes. They demonstrate its potential to restore Pakistan's status in the global aviation arena. So the privatization transaction now, what's going to do is going to bring immediate fiscal benefits through capital inflows, through the elimination of recurring subsidies, and these funds can be redirected towards national priorities, creating multiplier effects in infrastructure, public services, job creation. So by reducing the government's exposure to loss-making enterprises, privatization enhances fiscal stability and reduces long-term debt accumulation. Also, we have to consider the social dimension of privatization, ladies and gentlemen. Employee retention plans, I repeat, employee retention plans combined with professional management, they ensure continuity while improving operational efficiency. Over time, the airline's revival is expected to create new employment opportunities, both directly and indirectly across maintenance, logistics, as well as tourism sectors. And the multiplier effect of a competitive national airline can be significant. It can boost regional economic activity and strengthen Pakistan's international trade as well as travel linkages. Also, beyond all these economic considerations that we've just talked about, privatization now, it carries symbolic significance. So PIA, as said before at the very start, it was historically a source of national pride. It represented Pakistan on the global stage. Now, decades of decline have unfortunately now eroded this stature. Privatization combined with obviously the operational improvements, it offers the opportunity to restore PIA's reputation as a competitive, as an efficient, and more importantly, as a globally respected airline. So a thriving national carrier under private management, it can serve as a source of pride. It can demonstrate Pakistan's capacity to implement structural reform successfully. It also reinforces the message that national institutions can evolve to meet global standards while serving public interests, blending economic pragmatism with symbolic value. But at the end, well, while we talk about the plus points, let's discuss the risks of privatization quickly. Obviously, fellas, privatization is not without risks. There are some key concerns, right? Namely, ensuring delivery of capital commitments, managing your labor transitions, and more importantly, maintaining that regulatory oversight in order to safeguard public interest. However, these risks are mitigated by structured performance benchmarks, by regulatory monitoring and legal frameworks designed to enforce accountability. So the government's retained equity stake, it ensures ongoing influence over strategic decisions, balancing private initiative with public oversight. And this hybrid approach, it provides a mechanism to maximize the benefits of private management while maintaining national interests. So to conclude all of this discussion, what is the road ahead? So the privatization of PIA, it represents a defining moment in Pakistan's economic reform trajectory. It is not merely a financial transaction, but you can interpret it as a structural milestone that reflects fiscal prudence, that reflects institutional reform, that reflects strategic modernization. By transferring operational control to a capable domestic consortium, Pakistan has created the conditions for sustainable growth, for enhanced competitiveness, as well as renewed national pride. And the successful auction, the capital commitments, and operational turnaround, they signal that market-oriented governance can be applied effectively to strategic national assets. For Pakistan, PIA's privatization, it exemplifies the potential of combining economic theory, institutional reform, and strategic vision in order to achieve tangible results, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll conclude by saying that as this airline builds and expands, it will, God willing, not only contribute to the nation's economic resilience, but also serve as a symbol of Pakistan's capacity to implement transformative reforms in a complex and highly globalized environment. Right? So that'll be all for now, fellows. Please stay tuned. Please don't hesitate to like, share, subscribe. I'll be back, God willing, with more entertaining content and more illuminating content as well. Thank you all and have a nice evening. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.